Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. As people from all over the world join us today, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the GHHM team. My name is Pooja. I'm the site content developer and student engagement for South Asia. I will be the MC for the event. At the outset, I would like to thank you all for joining us today for the first GHHM Open Day, a session dedicated to providing prospective students a detailed overview of the course. To give you an outline of today's schedule, we will officially kickstart this event with an introduction to the course by our course director, and then we will move on to discuss how the GHHM course intersects with MSF's social mission. After this talk, we will get down to the nitty-gritty of the course, its structure, the content, online activities, and finally, how to apply for the current call of application. Before opening the floor for the Q&A, one of the GHHM alumni will also share his experience of the course. First, a few housekeeping rules. The last 10 minutes of today's event are dedicated to your queries. Nevertheless, you can type your questions anytime during the session in the Q&A box, which you will find at the bottom of your Zoom window. During the session, the team will try to get as many queries resolved. After completing all the sessions today, I will take the remaining questions to the panelists and they will answer them accordingly. Please be assured that the GHHM UK and South Asia websites have a dedicated FAQ section that will help you get familiar with the course requirements and the application procedure. Moreover, you can find the details of the team members and collaborators by clicking the Meet the Team tab on the GHHM South Asia website. Lastly, and this is to the presenters, I will be the timekeeper and accordingly give you a heads up if you are running over time. Please do bear with the interruption. Right, so for our first session, I would like to invite Dr. Roger Deck, the GHHM Course Director, who will give you a brief outline of the course structure, its history, and cohort overview. Dr. Roger has been working in humanitarian medical programs and interventions in various capacities at MSF from over 2 decades now. Through the MSF Manson unit, he has been fundamental in leading the course since the end of 2017. Welcome, Dr. Roger.
Thanks, Pooja. And well, great to see such a large group of colleague medical doctors joining us for this open day session of our Global Health and Humanitarian Medicine course. So before I pass the floor to Dr. Barkavi, who will give the introduction, I want to welcome you. And I'm going to say a few words of our course. So myself, as Pooja said, I'm the course director, and I'm in this position already since 2017. So welcome all, and let's start now. Good. So well, just to remind all of you, I'm sure that you have gone through the websites and that you have, and probably you might have looked already at the application form. But so in fact, our Global Health Humanitarian Medicine course, or GHHM, it's a part-time course, blended learning. That means a mix of online activities, but also live-streamed interactive sessions. And in fact, we are organizing this course to equip medical doctors with the medical knowledge and the public health required to work in low and middle income countries, very often in low resource settings, including humanitarian crisis contexts. So this is a course for medical doctors, and of course we have to be specific about it. It's it's open for medical doctors who have a minimum of 2 years working experience, and we are especially welcoming medical doctors who are already working in those low and middle income countries, often in humanitarian crisis contexts. But we are also open to medical doctors who prepare, who intend to go to work in those contexts. So we want to provide an affordable global access to this type of education in healthcare provision for populations in resource-limited settings. Next one, thanks. So just to give you an outline of where we are coming from. So the GHHM course was launched in 2015. Later on, it got we called it the UK course because it was initially, of course, it started here through the MSF UK office in London. So launched in 2015, but very quickly, quite soon, as of 2017, in fact, we started the GHHM South Asia course through the MSF office in India. Yeah. And that with that to increase that access for doctors in the Asia region, because you can imagine, because of the time zone differences, it's very difficult for people in Asia to attend lectures, for example, organized out of London. And so, well, up to now, we have 370 medical doctors who have completed the GHHM course, and the overall majority have obtained the Diploma of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene of the Royal College of Physicians. We have, at this time, we have our course year the current course year is coming to an end. It will end by the end of May. And we have about 127 medical doctors of 44 different nationalities. But I must say we have still also the cohort of students of last year who are also going to join, and all together they're going to join for this DTMH exam of 2021 on the 8th of June. Next one. So we are not doing this alone. We are working with, and it was outlined, I think, on the website. We work with clinicians from other of hospitals, health centers. We work with colleagues of academic institutions, international organizations, other non-governmental organizations. So they are all contributing to the content of our course and its delivery. But we have also more formal partnerships, like, for example, with the Infectious Disease Department of the Royal Free London NHS Foundation Trust. And we are working on a partnership with a College of Medicine in West Africa. And so that's with regard to the UK course. For the South Asia course, we have partnerships with 3 academic partners. Can we go to the next slide, please? So, and those academic partners are, well, Christian Medical College, or CMC Vellore, Jawaharlal Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research, abbreviation JIPMER, and the Manipal Academy of Higher Education. So these are 3 academic partners which are based in India. And I think with this, I just want to show you still the map of our students, which we have at this moment in our course, to show you that we have really become a global, a course of global access. Global access across all continents, and of course with a huge diversity among our student population. And in fact, what this map doesn't show is that, in fact, the majority of our medical doctor students are based in Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia. We have quite a lot of medical doctors who work in the Middle East. But so every year we are reaching out more and more to medical doctors across the globe, especially medical doctors who have that commitment or who work already in those poor resource settings. Thanks. Thanks, Pooja. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roger, for encapsulating the course delivery. In our next session, Dr. Bhargavi Rao will highlight how the GHHM course fits within the larger MSF social mission and the opportunities such a venture presents. Dr. Bhargavi is one of the original small team that developed the GHHM course and now serves both as the steering committee and as the MSF representative to DTMNH examination committee at the Royal College of Physicians. Welcome, Dr. Bhargavi. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Pooja. Hope. So welcome very much to all 129 of you, which is amazing that have come to this taster session. My job a little bit here is really, I guess, to place this course within the context of MSF. You know, there are many DTMNH courses. There are many ways in which to get this sort of qualification. And I think a little bit just to describe what this organization does and how this sort of fits in. So what is really special about doing this through MSF? And for that, I'd like to, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to take a bit of time just to explain what Médecins Sans Frontières is. So if you go to the next slide, Jess, please. Thank you. So oh, no, go back one, sorry. Perfect. In 1968, in southern Nigeria, the province of Biafra had seceded. It's a minuscule little territory surrounded by the Nigerian army, and the Biafran people at the time were decimated by famine. The French Red Cross issued an appeal for volunteers, and a small group of French doctors responded and found themselves in the middle of a frank genocide. that was being silenced or not spoken about openly. And at the time, the Red Cross pursued a policy known as silent diplomacy, very rarely speaking out, no matter the scale of atrocities, for fear that this would offend parties in a conflict, which could limit their access and their ability to do humanitarian work. That experience of witnessing hundreds of thousands of people die due to a deliberate policy undertaken by the Nigerian government and still remaining silent was part of what motivated this group of young French doctors and journalists to start Médecins Sans Frontières. They were frustrated and outraged by the inability of the Red Cross to publicly attest to what had happened. MSF began formally in 1971 as that group of 13 founding French doctors and journalists decided to make themselves available to assist those in crisis and began to lay the foundations of this very new and questioning form of humanitarianism, the organization that was created in the belief that all people should have access to healthcare, regardless of their gender, race, religion, creed, or political affiliation, and that people's medical needs outweigh the respect for any sorts of national boundaries. Next slide, please, Jess. So MSF's principles of action are described in our charter, but in essence, our action is to help people in situations of crisis. And in the words of James Orbinski, who was the president of MSF when our organization won the Nobel Prize, this action is not a contented action. Humanitarian action is not simple generosity or simple charity. It is a very deliberate action to bring medical aid to people in distress, an attempt to defend them against what is aggressive to them as human beings. And so more than offering material assistance, the aim is to enable individuals to regain their dignity as human beings. MSF is committed to bringing direct medical aid to people in need, but we don't act in a vacuum of medicine. We do not speak, as James Orbinski says, we do not speak into the wind, but with a clear intent to assist, to provoke change, or to reveal injustice through this medical action. Our action and our voice are acts of indignation, a refusal to accept a passive or active assault on the other. And I hope that very much these sorts of principles come through. This is what is special about this particular form of global health and humanitarian medicine course. So what does this actually mean? And I think really important and critical to much of what we do and what we bring to this course is what does this mean, this humanitarian action? Humanitarian action is a gesture of solidarity from one civil society to another, from one person to another. Its ultimate aim being to preserve life and alleviate suffering, the principal aim of humanitarianism. And unlike other solidarity actions, this medical act is not to assume political responsibility or to change any society, but it is first and foremost to relieve human suffering. Next slide, please, Jess. And to overcome critical moments. And for MSF, the first principle that is absolutely critical in the idea of humanitarianism is that of impartiality. We offer assistance to people based on need, to people, not to systems or states. We give priority to those in most and immediate serious danger. We consider only a person's humanitarian needs, not who they are. We don't discriminate according to race or gender, caste or political opinions. The humanitarian act in itself is free of political influence. And for that, importantly, we need the establishments to recognize its responsibility to ensure that the humanitarian can exist. And that's very critical to the sort of teaching that we employ within the course. Next slide, please, Jess. Another key principle of MSF and humanitarianism is that of neutrality. And this obviously just means not taking sides. So the organization doesn't take sides in armed conflicts. It doesn't support the agendas of warring parties. And sometimes if we're not present on all sides of a conflict, this might be because access is denied to us or due to insecurity, or because the main needs of the population are already covered. But we will run health promotion campaigns, open our hospitals, hold meetings with everyone from the government, ministers to local warlords, community elders to women's groups. Gaining their acceptance of the people themselves is key to our ability to work in difficult environments such as Afghanistan or the Democratic Republic of Congo. There is, of course, an inherent tension within this principle of strict neutrality. Whilst adhering to our notion of the medical action and acting without borders, and this puts the needs of the people above any sort of strict definitions of that principle. And so MSF sometimes will even violate its own neutrality in situations where remaining neutral is morally reprehensible. In practice, there have been times when MSF has felt compelled to bend that principle of neutrality. For example, after witnessing some of the atrocities of the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. And so I want to sort of make sure we get across that this idea of neutrality and impartiality, that's a daily effort of assertion and debate. And in every instance of MSF's medical humanitarian action, we continually ask ourselves if our core values are being compromised and whether that is acceptable. Our fundamental purpose remains to alleviate suffering and to assist anyone in need who cannot access healthcare, even as this world continues to shift around us. Next slide, please, Jess. And bolstering this is our principle of independence. Our independence is rooted in our funding. MSF rarely takes funds from governments, businesses, or institutions for our work. Over 90% comes from individual private donors, giving small amounts. It means we can freely evaluate needs, access populations without restriction or political interference, and really directly deliver the aid we provide to the people we serve. Where there is an emergency, we don't have to wait for official funds to be released or for the media to generate interest. We can act fast to save lives, people's lives based on need alone. Our financial independence also means the aid we provide cannot be used to further any other government's political or military goals. Next slide, please, Jess. Silence has long been confused with neutrality and presented as this very necessary condition for humanitarianism. But from its very beginning, MSF was created in opposition to this assumption, and this has evolved over our 50-year history. Our principle is founded in the belief that whilst we're not sure that words can always save lives, we know that silence can certainly kill. Our proximity to people in distress, being there on the ground, implies a duty to raise awareness on their plight to ultimately help improve their situation. We may seek to bring attention to extreme need and to suffering, and when access to life-saving medical care is hindered, when our teams witness extreme violence of acts of violence, as just we've reported in the media in Tigray in Ethiopia, or when crises are neglected or where the provision of aid is being abused. This is not a paternalistic act. Kind of in this era of looking at decolonization in global health, this is not a paternalistic act. As Arundhati Roy once said, there is really no such thing as the voiceless. There are only those who are deliberately silenced or preferably unheard. And this is the very proud genesis of our identity as MSF. And we struggle as an imperfect movement for speaking out. And sometimes it doesn't have the intended consequence, but we remain committed to our principle of témoignage, of bearing witness and playing our role to enable people to be heard. Next slide, please, Jess. And we take responsibility of accounting for our actions to our patients and our donors and being really transparent about the choices we make. As an accountable organization, we have to review, analyze, critique our operations as always, examine the impact of our response, explore what we got right, what we got wrong, and how we can better reach and treat those who need us most. We recognize that there are instances in which aid can do more harm than good, which is why we're constantly examining our presence, especially in conflict zones, to see if we're genuinely improving and saving lives rather than jeopardizing them. Every penny spent at MSF is subject to a rigorous accounting system with all the information logged and shared with our donors as well as headquarters. We're very proud of the way in which we put the money we get to use. And proximity to people that we work with is also a real distinctive value. Working with them side by side, being present and accountable to them is really paramount to MSF. Next slide, please, Jess. And I hope when you take this course and you have people from MSF coming as speakers, presenting some of the cases that we see, some of our experiences, and our really proximate work on the ground, I think you should recognize how much our daily work is a struggle. It is intensely medical. It is intensely personal. MSF is not a formal institution, and with luck, it never will be. It is a civil society association. It's a civil society organization driven by associate membership. And it has an informal legitimacy rooted in its action and its support from public opinion. The legitimacy so unlike other organizations such as the ICRC, MSF has no formal mandate. It is not commissioned by governments or other institutions, and it bases its work in the principles enshrined on its own charter, which is of universal medical ethics and the right to humanitarian assistance. The legitimacy of MSF's humanitarian action has been derived less from kind of international humanitarian law than this affirmation of medical care as a universal right. In essence, we act because we must, and if any of you have ever read The Plague, to misquote Dr. Rieu, I've never managed to getting used to seeing people die, and that is what we do, and that is why we run this course. Next slide, please, Jess. In 2019, staff from MSF provided medical and humanitarian assistance to people in more than 70 countries. In 2019, the Ebola outbreak raged in northeastern DRC, and alongside the worst ever measles epidemic. Further east, there were 2 cyclones, severe flooding parts of Mozambique, Sudan and South Sudan. There was an upsurge in conflict across the Sahel and in Yemen, and thousands of migrants, refugees and asylum seekers remain trapped in Libya, in Greece, in Mexico, exposed to violence and disease. MSF's teams responded to all of these crises and other emergencies around the world, with a workforce of approximately 65,000 people, around 80% of whom were hired in the countries in which we work. Next slide, please, Jess. And so I think, and I'm going to link this a little bit to the GHHM course, MSF as a movement reflects at certain important times. We did so in 1997 after the Rwandan genocide, fell into a real identity crisis about all the mass violations that occurred under the eyes of our medical humanitarian workers. Again, in the aftermath of 9/11 in 2006, we developed the La Mancha Treatise, basically looking at how humanitarianism and militarism kind of had to interact, and this constant sort of reaffirmation of different points in time and how we work and how we govern ourselves. Next slide, please. And I think strangely, we find ourselves over the past few years in that sort of moment again. And I think one of those things is about what we know is funding for charities can't keep growing at the 11% we need. We recognize that aid and charity has its own scandals. I think that there is a change in the post-World War II order away from Eurocentric sort of decision making. And importantly, there is a huge decolonization agenda. And when I say that our 65,000 staff, of whom 80% are from the countries in which we work, we recognize increasingly that there is a real and strong urgent need for us to invest in making sure that people who are from the countries in which we serve, as well as those who are going to work in the countries in which MSF work, need to be not only trained in the medicine that they may face there, but also in the genuine dilemmas, the ethical crises, the challenges that are faced by doctors and nurses there on the ground. And that is one of the main purposes of why we have developed the Global Health and Humanitarian course. Next slide, please, Jess.
Dr. Bhargavi, may I please request you to wrap up soon? Thank you.
Yep, of course. Thank you, Pooja. So just a couple of slides to show you a little bit that medical education needs to, one of the real sort of principles of the GHHM course is very much that medical education is not just through Western educated doctors who are perhaps experts in their field from sort of the London School of Tropical Medicine or Oxford or sort of, you know, bastions of sort of Eurocentric privilege and power. This is very much about the people of MSF, the people that we work with across our various partner organizations in South Asia, in Sub-Saharan Africa, our workers, actually providing both their expertise and their experiences to prepare people working in those settings for the challenges that they may face. Next slide, please, Jess. That this is actually the face of much of the medicine that we see. Next slide, please, Jess. That some medicine is obviously the same as much as some of us may see in Europe, but much of it is also, next slide, please, Jess. Much of it will also be in settings like this. Today, 1 in 7 people on the planet is on the move. That's 1 billion migrating individuals, more than ever before. Refugees, other migrants face distinct challenges around healthcare, and very little of what we experience through our medical schools prepares us for this and these needs. Next slide, please, Jess. And I think importantly, recognition through some of our work as climate change becomes one of the greatest threats to our public health, to the way in which medicine is practiced in lower and middle income countries, and framing that through a humanitarian lens is going to be critical to the way in which we teach on this course. Next slide, please, Jess. So I have a quote that really resonates for me as a medical humanitarian practitioner from an Aboriginal elder, and it says basically, if you've come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound with mine, then let us work together. And I think very much that is the philosophy of the Global Health and Humanitarian course. It is not about training people to come and be charity workers in humanitarian settings. It's about how are we working together, because our liberation, our medical care is bound up with each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhargavi. That was really riveting. And thank you so much. I would like to request all the attendees to type your questions in the Q&A tab. You can see it at the bottom of the Zoom window. Thank you so much for that. Our next session today will provide you a concise course overview. You will see most of our MSF team members here today with us. For the first part of this session, I would like to once again invite Dr. Roger, who will delineate the purpose of this course and its syllabus. For information on content and delivery, we have Dr. Ghn Cropley with us, who is the GHHM content advisor and a consultant in infectious diseases and HIV at Royal Free London NHS Foundation Trust. Welcome, Dr. Ghn and Dr. Roger. Over to you.
Thanks, Pooja. I'm going to ask Jess to share the presentation. So after that great outline by Bhargavi about, well, Médecins Sans Frontières, who we are, what we want to do, what our principles, not only for the medical humanitarian mission of MSF, but also for other organizations. But we want to come back to the GHHM course and to speak about its content and its delivery. As you can imagine, MSF, we have been organized since many years already, trainings, very often short-term, focused trainings. But in fact, with this GHHM course, this is one of the very first courses, long-term, comprehensive, and really aiming at reinforcing, strengthening the capacity of our workforce. And so that's how we came up with this course, dedicated, of course, to medical doctors, MSF medical doctors, but also non-MSF medical doctors. So it's also open for medical doctors who work for ministries of health, other organizations, other healthcare actors, and so on. So, and this course, in terms of its content, in fact, it is, of course, it has as main components the topics which are needed to sit the exam of the Diploma of Tropical Medicine of the Royal College of Physicians, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that to include, in fact, the social mission of what medical humanitarian organizations like us are doing. I show the slide, it disappeared again, but so you have that slide there in front of you, which is in fact giving an outline of the syllabus. And so our syllabus is constructed, it consists of several modules, and many of those modules, of course, correspond with paragraphs which are with chapters which are needed, which are also in the syllabus of the Diploma of Tropical Medicine. But we have also other modules where we speak more about, well, global health, what are the global health actors, what are the developments in terms of global health, humanitarian crisis, what is happening in our world, and then where are we with humanitarian responses. So we have included, so quite an important part of our course has included that, even up to the point that we invite, in fact, medical doctors, colleagues who work in the field, in low resource settings, to speak about their experiences with regard to offering access to excluded population for certain healthcare topics, for priorities, speaking about about their experiences with outbreak interventions, working in displaced people camps, and so on. So it's a comprehensive syllabus, which has at its core the syllabus of the DTMH exam, but beyond that we have modules about global health and humanitarian medicine. And as we said already, well, the teaching is by colleagues from MSF, but it's also by colleagues from academic institutions, other organizations, and so on. Thanks. So I pass now the floor to Ian.
Hi there, everybody. Are you able to hear and see me?
Yes.
Great, lovely. Fantastic to see so many of you online. Thank you very much for all tuning in and putting your questions in the box. I've been trying to answer a lot of them as we go along. I'm Ian Cropley. I'm an infectious diseases physician in North London, and I did this course myself about 4 or 5 years ago, because I'm coming to the end of my useful life in the NHS and wanted to go off and do something more around the world. And I found it an absolutely fantastic course. So really it's aimed at people who may have very little or no understanding or appreciation of tropical medicine, diseases in low resource settings, and global health and health in crisis situations. So really what we need to see from you is an enthusiasm for learning about this and going out into those sort of situations. Just a little bit about how we run the course. We have weekly online seminars. So we run the course from July through to April each year, roughly July through to April. And they are weekly lectures, weekly seminars. They're on Wednesday evenings, London time, and Thursday evenings, India time. And the two courses are run, they are interconnected, and some of the lectures are shared. Some of the lectures are separate and are a bit more specific and focused in the UK, particularly on Africa-centric courses, and in Southeast Asia, through the Southeast Asia course run out of India, they might be more Southeast Asian focused. So every week we have the weekly seminar, and we ask you to try and tune into that if you're able to. It's held on Zoom, and you can ask questions in the chat as we go along. Before each of the weekly lectures, we release a quiz, which is really there to try and set your mind working and to introduce you to the whole range of topics as we go along. So this is an example of one question. So there are roughly 10 questions, and it's a bit like homework. So you take these home and you have a go and you do your answers. These aren't marked. They are purely for your education. And so you can work your way around finding out what the literature is. So here's, for instance, here's a picture of a tapeworm that one of my patients brought into clinic in a coffee jar. So you get questions around that and pictures. Next slide, please. And then following that usually takes up half an hour of the 2-hour session. And then there are 2 40-minute seminars. You can interact by the chat box on Zoom. And most of these seminars are given by specialists in their field, and a lot of them are really amazing international experts in their fields with a huge knowledge of the subject and the situation of the diseases. We have speakers from MSF, from World Health Organization, and from numerous clinical and academic institutions across the world. So there's a huge variety of speakers. It's not just run by people who are working in MSF. And a lot of these people give up their time voluntarily to talk to us. So it's a huge privilege to have these immensely high quality lecturers. Next slide, please. We also tend to have 2 half-day Saturday seminars during the year, and then before the Diploma in Tropical Medicine and Hygiene exam, a couple of weeks before, we have a really intense revision course where we really go through the whole of the syllabus for the exam. I think it's important to say this course is so much more than just preparing you for the Diploma in Tropical Medicine and Hygiene, but obviously that's what we'd like everybody to aim for. It's much broader than that and introduces all the global health information and working in resource-poor settings, often in difficult circumstances, and with an MSF bent to it. At the moment, everything is online. You might have heard previously we had classroom, we had a mixed environment. So some people in the classroom and then it being live online as well. Since COVID, everything is online at the moment, and it doesn't look like things are going to change in the immediate future. So it will be a completely online course. Somebody asked if the lectures are available afterwards, and yes, the lectures are recorded. So, and they are available usually for the remainder of the course. So if you miss a lecture, then nearly always you'll be able to watch the lecture online. But we do ask, if you can, to try and tune into the weekly seminars. Otherwise, you tend to get behind and you miss out on the interaction as well. Next slide, please. As part of the requirement for taking the Royal College of Physicians of London exam, the Diploma in Tropical Medicine and Hygiene, you're required to spend 12 hours in the laboratory. So as parasitology, so basically attached to a microscope and being shown lots and lots of slides of different parasites. This year, unfortunately, because of COVID, we weren't able to offer lab-based parasitology training, so it was all done online. I've no idea whether it will be online next year or not. I sort of think it may well have to be online again because it looks like COVID isn't settling down. But we run a 2-day, this year we ran a 2-day intensive course of laboratory-based parasitology all online, which I think was quite successful. If, however, the Royal College decide that you have to be there in person, you will be responsible for the cost of travel and accommodation on top of that, but the course, the parasitology course itself, will be covered. Next slide, please. If the parasitology is face-to-face, we have a number of collaborating partners where the parasitology can be done. So the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in central London, AMC in Amsterdam, NICD in Johannesburg, CMC in Vellore, KMC in Manipal, and Ghm in Puducherry. So that would be an intensive 2 or 3 days if it turns out to be face-to-face. Otherwise, we will run it online again. Next slide, please. Roger has already told us about this, but the collaborating institutions, the Royal Free London NHS Foundation Trust, where I work, and then KMC Manipal, CMC Vellore, and Ghm in Puducherry. Next slide, please. Okay, that is my lot then. So over to Jess. Keep typing your questions and we'll try and keep up with answering them. And if any aren't answered, please type them at the end.
Hi, can you all hear me okay? I'm going to assume you can. So just wanted to quickly, as Ian said, everything is on an online platform. So it's a completely online course at the moment with the live sessions. But the idea is that this platform is a place where you're going to have many resources that we will upload for self-directed learning. It's flexible and part-time, except for those interactive sessions, those lecture sessions, which we try to make as interactive as possible. So this is also including, you know, things like breakout rooms for discussion. The platform is going to have activities with which Kiara will take you through just now. And as they said, the recordings, if you miss something, the idea is that you are able to catch up with things later, and also for kind of continued revision. The platform is a space that we hope to sort of foster meeting one another. You're going to be with doctors who, you know, share interests. So there are forums to sort of discuss questions that come up. Things like quizzes will all be placed here. Yeah, so that's all to say about that. And I'll pass to Kiara to go into a bit more depth.
Thank you so much, Jess. So Jess is our media manager and IT expert, and who works behind the scenes for successful running of the course. Thank you. I would like to call Dr. Kiara Morrison. She is the GHHM site content developer, student engagement and liaison for UK. Welcome, Dr. Kiara.
Hi, thanks, Pooja. Hi, everyone. Really nice to see you here, and actually really nice to recognize some names that I've been emailing with over the last few weeks. So I'm Kiara. I'm a medical doctor. I've been working on the course for the last 5 years or so, and I was actually a student on the course the very first year the course ran. So I can vouch for how great it is, which is my non-biased opinion, obviously. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the flexible online learning portion of the course, basically. So on top of your lectures, we will offer a series of group activities. So this part of the course, what we try to do is introduce you to important concepts in global health that we're not actually able to take you through in the lectures or the quizzes, or we might need to go into more detail. We use these activities to prepare you for the DTM&H exam, particularly the public health paper. And we also recognise that all of you have a wealth of knowledge and experience, and that one of the best ways of learning is to share this with each other. And what a better way to form a global health community than to do these online activities together and share. So how are we going to do this? Next slide, please. So we divide you into small groups of about 5 to 8 students, usually about 5, from all over the world. You'll be supported by an online moderator, which is a previous GHHM student. So they know the drill and they will lead you through and guide you through the process. We have roughly about 1 group activity per month, and each activity runs for about 2 to 3 weeks. But you will have weekly work set for you. So you'll have either a scenario to work your way through with your group, or you'll have some questions, and you can divvy up the questions. You can do it however you want in your own time, but you will have to work on it every week. We tend to say that you should spend around an hour to an hour and a half a week on your group activities. So it's not a small undertaking. Next slide, please, Jess. So a few examples of what we cover. We cover outbreak investigation, response and control. We do some malaria clinical case management and some control and prevention. We look at some dengue cases. We look at malnutrition and an approach to a therapeutic feeding center. We look at HIV clinical cases and HIV prevention. We look at prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV. And we look at non-communicable diseases, as well as the course goes on, we try and focus on preparing you for the preventive medicine paper, which is the public health paper of the DTM&H exam. On your right-hand side of the screen is a snapshot of one of our group activities. So it's a couple of the questions that you could expect to see next year, should you wish to apply to the exam, to the course and be successful. This scenario is focused on an outbreak scenario. So you are a medical doctor and you are in a country where there has been an outbreak of a highly fatal disease, and you need to investigate that outbreak, and using all the epi data that we give you, all the clinical data we give you, and you need to investigate the outbreak, put in some control measures and control the outbreak, and put in some prevention of how you're going to stop this happening again. And so over a 2 to 3 week period, you and your group will do this. So we try to make it interactive and fun, and hopefully you will all enjoy it. Next slide, please, Jess. So at the end of the course, most of you will want to go on and take the DTM&H exam. And the Global Health course has a few requirements that you must meet in order to be able to do that. So we require that you attend at least 70% of the Wednesday or the Thursday seminars, depending on which site you apply to. You have to attend them in person. So yes, we do upload the lectures online, but you do need to attend 70% of them live. You also need to participate or contribute to at least 70% of the group activities. We require you to complete the parasitology training and participate in the GHHM mock exam, which usually takes place in December. We will do everything we can to support you through this process. Next slide. I think it's over to James and Shahid.
Thank you so much, Kiara. That was very interesting recapturing of the group activities and the course requirement. For the last part of the session, James Stickley, the GHHM project manager, and Shahid Mir, the GHHM South Asia site admin, will walk you through the fee structure and help you decide the suitable course site. Over to you, James and Shahid.
Hi Pooja, thanks for that introduction, and welcome to everyone once again who's joining us today. So yeah, it's a very, very brief little slide from me, which is just to cover the course fees. So we have a 4-tier course fee structure, which is based on the income classification of your country of residence from the World Bank. So fees are determined according to your country of residence. So when you're looking at making your application, there is a downloadable PDF linked in the application form. Or sorry, I think it's actually on the main web page where you can see which of these classifications you would fall into. And so you can see there for high income countries it's £2,760, upper middle income countries 750, lower middle income countries 650, and then 550 for students residing in low income countries. So that's it from me.
Hi everyone, my name is Shahid. So I'll just be walking you through how to what site to apply for. So as mentioned by Ian, both the sites in UK and South Asia run the same program. The modules and everything run in UK and South Asia are same, and the courses run parallelly. So we run our 2 webinars. One is in if you're a student who's wanting to take the course in UK, the classes would run on Wednesdays from 1800 to 2000 hours London time, and in South Asia the classes run on Thursdays from 1600 to 1800 hours Indian Standard Times. So based upon the time zone which is closer to your country of residence, you should be applying to that site. Say for instance, if you're based in Australia, it makes no sense if you're applying to the site in UK, because it is not, I mean, South Asia site would be a preferable site for you one. If in case you are not able to kind of decide for the site which you should be applying for, you could write to us on our emails, which we would be displaying in the next few slides. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, James and Shahid, for clarifying that.
These are just the regions. If you are in any of the below regions, for instance, the South Asia site will accept applications from the following regions: Central Asia, South Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Oceania. If in case you're based in Europe, Africa, Americas, and Middle East, you should be applying to the UK site. Please note our email IDs if in case you want to connect with us or you're not sure about the site you should be applying to. Thanks. Over to you, Pooja.
Thanks, Shahid. I'm sorry to interrupt you in between. I thought it was, yeah, done. Never mind. So for the last session today, we have on GHHM experience, we have our GHHM alumni who will share how the GHHM course has helped him to improve his medical skills and how its translation into clinical practice oriented him for better patient-centric care. I would like to invite Dr. Pranab Chatterjee. Dr. Pranab is a public health doctor and a GHHM moderator for the last 2 years. He has worked with the Public Health Foundation of India for a couple of years before moving to Indian Council of Medical Research. He's currently pursuing a PhD in global health and epidemiology from the Department of International Health at Johns Hopkins University and is a MSF volunteer. Welcome, Dr. Pranab. Over to you.
Thanks, Pooja. Thanks for the generous introduction. So I did the GHHM course 3 years ago. It was an excellent introduction to the tenets of tropical medicine and public health, and it has helped me in so many tangible and intangible ways in the last couple of years. To begin with, I had become a much more confident infectious disease doctor. So from treating parasitic infections in people in Laos to figuring out public health projects and programs while working for the Ministry of Health in India, to working on tropical medicine and teaching tropical medicine related materials to students at Hopkins. It's been a useful experience at every step of my career. I have found a lot of friends, both from the MSF fraternity. I did the MSF South Asia cohort, and I have found a lot of friends in the MSF India fraternity, as well as people who joined up to do the course with me, and these have become friendships for life. And most importantly, I came very close to MSF as an organization. I got to see the kind of work they've been doing, and that has basically shaped the way I want to pursue the future or pursue my career options in the future. So this is more than just a training for the DTMH exam. This is a course that helps orient you to the changing global health trends. And although tropical medicine is a term that comes with colonial connotations, this is an incredible introduction to decolonization, to the work going on in different conflict settings. And the best part of the course is it's not a lot of learning by memory or rote learning, but it's a lot of applied learning. It's a lot of figuring out outbreak investigations. It's a lot of hands-on group work, discussion. It's a lot of fun, to be honest. And it has something for everybody. If you were like me, a non-microbiology oriented, non-lab oriented physician, you're going to learn a fair amount of lab work. You're going to become more confident handling micro photographs and identifying helminths. And that's a critical skill for anybody who's interested in pursuing a tropical medicine or a global health career. And if you are like some of my other cohort members, if you're more on the lab side, if you're a microbiologist, if you are somebody who's just coming out of their MBBS training, talking about the Indian cohorts, obviously, then it's a wonderful introduction to the world of global public health and public health medicine. So it has something for everybody. It provides you a very supportive cohort. The MSF teams are incredible. The speakers, the teachers are incredible. And I was always very afraid of blotchy red and blue micro photographs. And there were certain tricks and treats Dr. Cropley would throw us our way, and that would really help us out. And I live by his dictum now. If it's red and blue or pink and blue and you can't identify, it's brain tissue. So I've had a lot of fun learning with GHHM. And I remain incredibly grateful to the GHHM teachers, to the cohort members, to everybody for bringing this well-structured program to us. And just do it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pranab. That's a very captivating narrative. And thank you so much for making time out for us today. So, right, now we will move on to the Q&As. Just let me pull out the tab. Okay, so I'm going to bring out all the unanswered questions. Right, so this is for James and Shahid. If low-income country national, but on a visa in the West, which fee should we pay?
So as I mentioned, it's based on your country of residence. So wherever you are currently residing would be the tier that you would fall into. But if you want to ask in more detail or have any follow-up, then yeah, please do contact us by email, because it's easier to answer more in-depth queries like that.
Thank you. Okay, this is also for Shahid and James. This is interesting. I'm from UAE. Can I apply both to the course in South Asia and the UK?
I think it's probably best to pick one or the other. You don't want to pay twice.
Definitely.
But of
Thank
course,
you.
we can answer that question over email.
Thank you, James. Dr. Ian, could you please answer this question? Where will the lab sessions be held in? Will it be held in India, considering the pandemic now, or will it be done online?
I'm very difficult to know what's going to happen, but I can't see COVID being solved by this time next year, or it'll be by January. We usually do our lab courses in December, January. So I suspect that it will be online again. But we are at the mercy of the Royal College of Physicians. They will tell us whether it has to be in person or online. But if travel is restricted, then we will, with the other courses, lobby for it to be online again.
Just to interject, I think there was a question that didn't get moved over from the chat to the Q&A. If laboratory training does go ahead in person, will there also be an online option?
Yeah, no, there won't. The laboratory training will be in person if the Royal College deems that it has to be done in person. But if travel is not going to be possible, we will lobby for it to be online. Does that answer that?
Thank you, Dr. Ian. James. All right, Dr. Ian, again to you. Hi, throw me light on the 2 half-day Saturday seminars, i.e. what is the time?
They're held at UK morning time, so 9 o'clock in the morning till 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. And the full day weekend will be UK time as well, so 9 o'clock in the morning UK time till 5 or 6 in the evening UK time.
Thank you, Dr. Ian. Okay, this is for James and I think the whole panel. Can I know if I get accepted but wanted to do it next year? Is it possible?
Was that a question for me, did you say?
Sure, yeah, please.
I actually think maybe it's better for someone else to answer.
Yeah, so like it's for the whole panel because it's a very tricky question. So I would say like, yeah. Okay. Would anyone like to answer?
I would answer that. In fact, we are selecting candidates for this year. So if that person cannot do it this year, then we will advise that colleague to reapply next year. So we are not working with a waiting list for the next year. So we look at it for every year. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Roger. Kiara, you have covered this. Perhaps you could answer again. In case the parasitology course was decided to be face-to-face and I could not join, would I still get the certificate? So this is about the GHHM course requirement.
If parasitology course was decided to be face-to-face, I can join. Would I still get the certificate? As long as you attend one of the parasitology courses, then you get your GHHM certificate and you get signed off as eligible to sit the DTM&H. So what we do is we find out from the RCP when and what kind of training we can offer. If we can offer in-person lab training, we will send you a list of all the centres. We try and take people's preferences into consideration. So we match you in locations, and we do our best to do that. And then we will send you off to do your lab training. As long as you attend it, you get a certificate. If there is no in-person lab training, we will do an online offering, and your online offering will be sufficient for the DTM&H exam and your GHHM completion sign-off. So as long as you attend our parasitology training, then you get signed off and you get your certificate.
And I think if you find that at the last minute that you're unable to do a parasitology course, if it's in person, then I think you come and negotiate with us and we discuss what can be done.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Kiara. Kiara, you have covered this earlier too. Again, my post-internship 2-year clinical experience will be completed in upcoming June. From when GHHM is supposed to start? My experience in MSF as an MD will be 1 year, 9 months in June. So can I apply?
So what we say is that you need to have been qualified and have 2 years postgraduate experience by the time the course year starts. So the course year this year is likely to start at the very beginning of July. So I'm not going to comment on individual circumstances about when people have completed their 2 years. If you have specific questions, then just drop us an email. We're all really friendly and very happy to discuss individual circumstances. But the general rule is that 2 years postgraduate graduation experience at the time of starting the course.
Thanks, Kiara. This is from Dr. Amy Patel. Dr. Ian, if you could please answer, do you recommend buying Oxford Tropical Medicine book during the course?
No, I recommend buying it before. Yeah, so the 4th edition, the latest edition, it's an excellent book. It's a bit out of date now, but yes, that's essential.
Thank you. Okay, I'm from Nepal, bordering India, but I don't want to go to India for the exams or any trainings. Can I apply for the UK course? Shahid, could you talk about the region and how can the time difference, how it will affect?
Okay, I think this is interesting. If in case you apply to UK, that means most of your classes you would be doing them at midnight, and it would really kind of impact your work life and your course work as well. So based upon the time zone which is nearer to your country, I think it would be a very rational choice to choose that site.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just scrolling through the questions. Just give me a second. If the pandemic will continue, what about the practical session? I think we have answered this, that we'll move to virtual sessions. Just a second, sorry, there's too many questions and most of them are, okay, what if I miss a lecture? Can I attend another lecture or a session? Do I have to pay again? I'm sorry, this is an amalgamation of 2 questions. So yeah. Anyone? So what happens if I miss a lecture, basically?
So the lectures are all online and recorded. We do ask for 70% attendance face-to-face. If that looks like it's going to be a problem, then I think you need to discuss with us individually.
Thank you. If I have done my primary medical education in India, will my country of work be limited in the future after completing the GHHM course? Shahid, HR expert, could you please help with that question?
Yeah, can you repeat it because I lost?
Sure. So if I do my primary medical education in India, will my country be limited? Like, for example, can I work outside India in the future after completing this course?
Yes, you can. You can apply anywhere and work anywhere.
Thank you. So I know we're running over time, so last 2 minutes, and just give me a second. If the parasitology course is done online, does the course fee still remain the same? Dr.
Yes,
Ian?
the answer is yes, because it takes quite a lot of work as well to do the to prepare the parasitology course online.
Thank you. Kiara, this one is for you. Would I be assigned to a course moderator / mentor to consult on course-related queries throughout the course or only for group activities?
So your course moderator, your group moderator, they're essentially there for all things, and they're a really good tool for you to access because they have been through this. Lots of them have worked for MSF, or lots of them have been through different types of training, and so they're a really great resource for you to fall back on, and they're really friendly, they're really great. So I encourage all our students to use their moderators as much as possible, and they're really flexible. They're very happy to chat to you on the phone, have Zoom sessions, and it is one of those things, the more you put into this course, the more you'll get out, and that's definitely true of your relationship with your moderator as well. We're also very happy to, lots of us on the GHHM staff will also very happy to chat to you if you've got any problems, and offer you some support, and also your peers. So what we really want to do is foster this community of students and global health students all together, and actually that's a really great resource for you to use. But yes, you will have a moderator that you can access and you can chat to and use as much as you like.
Thanks, Kiara. And yes, we are here for you in any case. Dr. Ian and Dr. Roger, could you please help with this question? Does this course offer different content and experience from the intensive 3-month course in the Lshtm or Liverpool, aside from the online part-time setup?
Yes, I think it does. It's I think this course is a broader course, but the 3-month courses at the London School, the Liverpool School, the Peruvian course, the Gorgas course, all of these courses are really excellent courses. We set this course up though to make it more accessible, because for those courses you have to take 3 months out of your life and you have to stop working, you don't have an income, you have to pay, and they are residential courses, whereas these are online. So I think that is the main difference. I think maybe one of the advantages that the residential courses have is that you're able to network more because you have face-to-face contact more, but we sort of try and do something with that online. But the basics are the same. The syllabus is really broad. You can see the syllabus on the Royal College website for the exam, and we cover a lot of the same stuff, but have emphasis on different things.
Thanks, Dr. Ian. This question was by Dr. Rudra Neil. When would we know about the selection in GHHM? I have applied for this cohort. Dr. Rudra Neil, you will come to know by mid-June. You will hear from us once the shortlisting is finalized. Okay, the similar question, sorry. Okay, are students required to do a sort of research? Kiara? I'm Jasri from South Sudan. Are students required to do a sort of research?
Like a research project?
Mm-hmm.
You're not. No, so it's very much an entry-level course to infectious diseases, tropical medicine, global health. So we don't have long essays, we don't have a thesis or anything like that as part of the course.
Thank you. I suppose this is the last question for the evening. Does a lack of pre-existing qualification or experience in humanitarian medicine put you at a relative disadvantage of being accepting into the course? Dr. Roger, Dr. Ian?
I would say no. It's I think what the most important is that the applicant expresses interest, commitment, or is already working in a poor resource setting. It's not required to having previous experience in a humanitarian medical response. Pooja, I have seen another question from a colleague who is working for a UN organization, but not doing clinical work anymore. And I would like to respond to that also. This course is about reinforcing capacity of medical doctors to work in lower and middle income countries, including humanitarian crisis context, for clinical work, but it can also be for organizational work, programmatic organization of healthcare services or humanitarian interventions. So, of course, someone who works as a medical officer can be eligible for this course.
Thank you, Dr. Raja, and thank you, everyone. So this marks the end of this event. I would like to thank all the MSF team members and the GHHM moderator, Dr. Pranab, for sharing such wondrous insights. I would also like to thank our prospective students who joined us today from different parts of the world. Please do visit the GHHM UK and South Asia websites and go through the FAQ section that will help you get oriented with the application procedure and the course requirements. We wish you all the very best for your applications and hope to see you in the course launch for the year 2021-2022. Thank you so much and all the best.